Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा रीडिंग फ्रॉम श्रीमद् भागवतम by his divine grace AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 32, Entanglement in Fruitive Activities. So now we are beginning the final section of this chapter, text 37 to 43, qualifications to receive the knowledge. So the previous section we have seen what is knowledge, jnana, and here we will see qualifications to receive the knowledge. Text 37. प्रावोचं भक्तियोगस्य स्वरूपं ते चतुर्विधम् कालस्य च अव्यक्तगते यः अंतर्धावति जंतुषु. Translation.
My dear mother, I have explained to you the process of devotional service and its identity in 4 different social divisions. I have explained to you as well how eternal time is chasing the living entities, although it is imperceptible to them. Purport. The process of Bhakti Yoga, that is devotional service, is the main river flowing down towards the sea of the Absolute Truth. And all other processes mentioned are just like tributaries. Lord Kapila is summarizing the importance of the process of devotional service. Bhakti Yoga, as described before, is divided into 4 divisions: 3 in the material modes of nature and 1 in transcendence, tinged by the modes of material nature. The modes of material nature is a means for material existence, whereas devotional service without desires for fruitive result and without attempts for empirical philosophical research is pure transcendental devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Now here it is, concluding section. My dear mother, Pravocham Bhakti Yogasya. I have explained to you the process of devotional service. And what else? And its identity in 4 different social divisions. Right? So this is Sankhya. Now we are concluding Sankhya. How the eternal time is chasing the living entities, although imperceptible to them. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the process of Bhakti Yoga is the main river, and there are many tributaries which are coming, which are the other processes like Jnana, Dhyana, Vairagya, so on and so forth. So Bhakti Yoga is the main river, and therefore it is very important our Bhakti also should remain the main river, right? That's why Rupa Goswami, he describes about the Shuddha Bhakti, Anyabhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karma Adi Anavritam, Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktiruttama. So our bhakti should remain the main tributary, main river. Baki other things are, our bhakti should not be covered over by this. Yesterday I was with one graphologist, and all these people, who are like in Upadharma. Upadharma means somebody who is into palmistry, somebody is a Jyotisha, somebody into graphology, somebody into some occult science like this. These people are so convinced about whatever they speak, whatever they do, there is always a chance that we may get covered over by their influence. So one should be always be aware. So as a matter of fact, as a rule, that we should not be overly influenced by anybody. That is very important thing. We should not, that it should not, our khud ka vivek buddhi should not be covered over by excessive influence, except our Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Right. So this is important, that the bhakti should remain the main river. And baki, it should be jnana karma adi anavritam. Correct. It should not be covered over by the attempts of the empirical philosophical knowledge or other fruitive activities. Karma kanda, jnana kanda, kevala vishera bhanda. Right. So this is now, Kapila Muni is concluding like this. Jnana karma adi anavritam. 38. जीवस्य संस्मृतेर्बर्हि अविद्या कर्म निर्मिता यासु अंग प्रवेशेन प्रवेशान्नात्मा न वेद गतिमात्मनः. Translation.
Translation: There are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. My dear mother, if anyone enters into that forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his movements will end. Purport: Once one enters into the continuation of material existence, it is very difficult to get out. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes himself or sends his bona fide representative, and he leaves behind scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, so that the living entities hovering in darkness of nescience may take advantage of the instructions, the saintly persons, and the spiritual masters, and thus be freed. Unless the living entity receives the mercy of the saintly persons, the spiritual master, or Krishna, it is not possible for him to get out of the darkness of material existence by his own endeavor. It is not possible. Hare Krishna.
Kapila Muni says, there are varieties of material existence for the living entity according to the work he performs in ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. And once one is on that path of samsmriti, jivasya samsmriti barhi, avidya karma nirmita, and one is entangling oneself by creating different types of karma, it is very difficult to understand where his movement will end. Srila Prabhupada explains in purport that once one enters into the continuation of material existence, it is very difficult to get out. Tanaham dvishataha kruran samsareshu naradhaman kshipami ajastra ashubhan asurishu eva yonishu. Right? There is no limit to degradation. And therefore, one should be always very cautious of, Kapila Muni writes here about the modes of material nature. Therefore, the Lord personally comes as various incarnations to save the living entities. He sends his bona fide representatives, Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale, right? And then he gives the scriptures, which are like Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And so that one may take Prabhupada's advantage of the instructions, saintly persons and spiritual master, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Without this advantage, it is very difficult to come out of the material existence, samsmriti, on our own. And therefore we pray to spiritual master, Chakshudan, Tilode, Janme Janme Prabhu say. Right. This is the prayer to spiritual master. Text 39. Naitat khalaya upadisheta na avinitaya karichit na stabdhaya na bhinnaya naimad dharma dvajaya cha. Translation.
Lord Kapila continued, this instruction is not meant for the envious, for the agnostic, or for the person who are unclean in their behavior, nor it is for hypocrites or for person who are proud of material possessions. Hare Krishna.
Now, this is the concluding. This instruction is not meant for na stabdhaya, na bhinnaya, naiva dharmadvajaya cha. Dharmadvajaya means those who are, the dharmic dambhi people. Lord Kapila continued, this instruction is not meant for envious, agnostics, or people who are unclean in their behavior, nor for the hypocrites or those who are proud of their material possessions. Very, very similar verses there in Bhagavad Gita, that this instruction is not meant for those who are not tapasvi and the other things. So now here it is concluding. Text 39 and 40 is about this instruction is not for whom. Okay, text 40. न लोलुपाय उपदिशेत न गृहारूढ़ चेतसे न भक्ताय च मे जातु न मद्भक्तद्विषाम् अपि. Translation.
It is not to be instructed to persons who are too greedy and too attached to family life, nor to persons who are non-devotees and who are envious of devotees and the personality of Godhead. Purport: persons who are always planning to do harm to other living entities are not eligible to understand Krishna consciousness and cannot enter into the realm of transcendental loving service to the Lord. Also, there are so-called disciples who become submissive to the spiritual master most artificially with an ulterior motive. They also cannot understand what Krishna consciousness or devotional service is. Persons who, due to being initiated by another sect of religious faith, do not find devotional service as common platform for approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also cannot understand Krishna consciousness. We have experienced that some students come to join us, but because of being biased in some particular type of faith, they leave our camp and become lost in the wilderness. Actually, Krishna consciousness is not a sectarian religion faith. It is a teaching process for understanding the Supreme Lord and our relationship with Him. Anyone can join this movement without prejudice. But unfortunately, there are some persons who feel differently. Therefore, it is better not to instruct the science of Krishna consciousness to such persons. Generally, materialistic persons are after some name, fame, and material gain. So, if someone takes to Krishna consciousness for these reasons, he will never be able to understand this philosophy. Such persons take to religious principles as a social decoration. They admit themselves into some cultural institution for the sake of the name only, especially in this age. Such persons also cannot understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Even if one is not greedy for material possessions but is too attached to family life, he also cannot understand Krishna consciousness. Superficially, such persons are not very greedy for material possessions, but they are too attached to wife, children, and family improvement. When a person is not contaminated by above mentioned faults, yet at the ultimate issue is not interested in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if he is a non-devotee, he also cannot understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness.
Kapila Muni is explaining who all cannot understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and therefore do not discuss this philosophy with them. Of course, people in general, what we discuss the holy name, distribute holy name profusely, but reserve the glories of the holy name, the glories of, or some very detailed chapters like this to those who are devotees of the Lord. It is not to be instructed to the persons who are too greedy, too materially attached, non-devotees, envious of the devotees or the personality of Godhead. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, how beautifully one after another he explains. Srila Prabhupada explains first that there are people who are always planning to do harm to other living entities. These are himsa, jiva himsa, right? So they are not eligible to understand Krishna consciousness. And that's why we have this regulatory principle, no meat eating. Why no meat eating? Because that is directly jiva himsa, correct? And they cannot enter the realm of loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. And then there are those who are artificially submissive to spiritual master with some ulterior motive to become next spiritual master or to become the God themselves. Such people are called as hypocrites, and they also cannot understand devotional service. The third one are unclean, Prabhupada writes. There are some people, Prabhupada writes here, that who come and join Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada is talking about the international experience here, right, from other sects and other faith, but somehow they are unable to take on to the process of Krishna consciousness, being biased towards a particular faith, and then they leave the camp and they become lost in the wilderness. Because Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada writes, is not any sectarian religion. What is Krishna consciousness? It's the scientific understanding about who is God and how to love and how to serve God. God is one. We may have 10,000 sects, but God is one, right? Just like we may have 10,000 language, the sun is one. It is not that the sun is different than Surya, then different than Suraj, and is different than some other, the statement in Kannada, Telugu, or Tamil. Sun is sun. Similarly, God is God, and loving service to God is loving service to God. And Krishna consciousness is the most scientific process, and irrespective of any religion, this can be practiced. And especially in Kali Yuga, that is, Krishna's direct call, Sarva Dharman, Parityajya, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. And Lord Krishna personally describing this in Bhagavad Gita, that give up all other varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. But still, Prabhupada writes, there are certain people who come from a sect which is very, very unclean. And because being raised and biased towards that sect, they cannot practice Krishna consciousness, and thus they will be lost in wilderness. Next is the materialistic persons who are after name, fame, and material gain. So they take to Krishna consciousness for this, but their Krishna consciousness is more like a decoration, just like it is more like a spiritual insurance that they have paid premium of. So they will have the photo of Guru on the wall, and they will say that, he is also there. He is happy in his world. I am happy in my world. Once in a year I go, Guru Dakshina I offer, and my life is done. So these are such people. Next are the people who are Gruharudha Chetase. Those who are being too attached to family life, they also cannot understand Krishna consciousness. Right. So again, this has to be age appropriate. Here Kapila Muni is discussing to Devahūti, his mother, where Devahūti is at the fag end of her life, while fully going through the complete extreme experience of Grihastha Ashram. So it has to be age appropriate. Right. So Gruharudha Chetase, in the age of Grihastha age, typically from 25 to 60 nowadays, one has to be extremely responsible for Grihastha Ashram life, and progressively one should hand over and work towards Vanaprastha and the exit. And finally, it is those who are abhakta, who are not interested in Krishna, or who are these are the not interested in the service of the personality of Godhead, or those who are non-devotees. So sometimes some people, they are good people, they are interested, they are inquisitive, but they are not interested. Prabhupada used to call them causeless unwillingness to serve Krishna. They know everything. They know philosophy, they know, but somehow there is no urgency within. So such people also, they are also bereft of Krishna consciousness later. Text 41. Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya vinitaya anusuyave bhuteshu krutamaitraya shushrusha abhirataya cha. Translation.
Instruction should be given to the faithful devotee who is respectful to the spiritual master, non-envious, friendly to all kinds of living entities, and eager to render service with faith and sincerity. Thank you.
So then, whom should this be given? So that is explained in 41 and 42. Right. Instruction should be given to those who are faithful devotees, who are respectful to their spiritual master. Shraddhadhanaya, bhaktaya. This is a nice verse it is. Vinitaya. Vinitaya means vidya vinayena shobhate. Vinaya. Bhuteshu krutamaitraya. Right. And then shushrusha abhirataya cha. One who is engaged in seva. Such a personality, this devotional service or this knowledge should be given. This verse is very similar to Bhagavad Gita 4.34. Which is that verse? So this is about how to serve one's spiritual master. Correct. Tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Correct. Upadyankshanti te jnaninas tattva darshana. And this verse also talks the same thing, 3.32.41. Correct. Tat vidhi pranipatena, very beautifully being explained. 41 and 42. Text 42. Bahirjata viragaya shantachittaya diyatam nirmatsaraya shuchaye yatsyaham priyasam priyaha. Translation.
This instruction should be imparted by the spiritual master to persons who have taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything, who are not envious of anyone, who are perfectly cleansed, and who have developed a detachment from that which is outside the purview of Krishna consciousness. Purport. In the beginning, no one can be elevated to the highest stage of devotional service. Here, Bhakta means one who does not hesitate to accept the reformatory processes from becoming a Bhakta. In order to become a devotee of the Lord, one has to accept a spiritual master and inquire from him about how to progress in devotional service. To serve a devotee, to chant the holy name according to certain counting method, to worship the deity, to hear Śrīmad Bhāgavatam or Bhagavad Gita from a realized person, and to live in a sacred place where devotional service is not disturbed, are the first out of 64 devotional activities for making progress in devotional service. One who has accepted these 5 chief activities is called a devotee. One must be prepared to offer the necessary respect and honor to the spiritual master. He should not be unnecessarily envious of his god brothers. Rather, if the god brother is more enlightened, advanced in Krishna consciousness, one should accept him as almost equal to the spiritual master. One should be happy to see such god brothers advanced in Krishna consciousness. Consciousness, because that is the bonus for getting out of the club. That is really humanitarian, or it is a way to show much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, unable to hear you properly. Is it just me?
So you can.
Hare Krishna, or am I lost?
No, actually, the word Shushrushabhirataya indicate a person who faithfully engages in serving the spiritual master. One should give personal service and all kinds of comforts to the spiritual master. A devotee who does so is also a bona fide candidate for taking this instruction. The word Bahirjata Viragaya means a person who has developed detachment from external and internal material propensities. Not only is he detached from activities which are not connected to Krishna consciousness, but he should be internally averse to the material way of life. Such a person must be non-envious and should think of the welfare of all living entities, not only of the human beings, but living entities other than human beings. The word shuchaye means one who is cleansed both externally and internally. To become actually cleansed externally and internally, one should chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna or Vishnu, constantly. The word Dhiyatam means that knowledge of Krishna consciousness should be offered by the spiritual master. The spiritual master must not accept a disciple who is not qualified. He should not be professional and should not accept disciples for monetary gains. The bona fide spiritual master must see the bona fide qualities of a person whom he is going to initiate. An unworthy person should not be initiated. The spiritual master should train his disciple in such a way so that in the future only the future only the Supreme Personality of Godhead will be the dearmost goal of his life. In these 2 verses of the qualities of devotees are fully explained. One who has actually developed all the qualities listed in these verses is already elevated to the post of a devotee. If one has not developed all these qualities, he still has to fulfill these conditions in order to become a perfect devotee.
Yeah. So these are the further qualities. This instruction should not be imparted by spiritual master to those, should be imparted to by spiritual master to those who have taken the personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything else. So this is the word here comes is pranadhana, right? So it is the prana and dhana for a devotee. He is non-envious of others, anusuyave, is perfectly cleansed, suchaye, and developed detachment for that which is outside the purview of Krishna consciousness. Nirmatsaraya suchaye, yatsyaham preyasam priya. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that bhakta means what a statement. One does not hesitate to accept the reformatory process of becoming a bhakta. That is the meaning of bhakta. Like when we become devotee, suddenly our hal chal, achar, vichar, lot of things will change, correct? We'll start putting tilak, we'll start carrying wearing kantimala, we'll start carrying the bead bag around, chanting. So Prabhupada says that to bhakta means one will not hesitate to accept the reformatory process of being a devotee, to serve the devotee, chant the holy names, certain method of chanting, counting methods, worship the deities, hear Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and then to live in a sacred place. That means going to yatras and everything. These are quite out of world things for people in general, right? That same every Sunday we go to temple, every the morning programs we attend, and then every yatra we try to attend and everything else, giving 2 hours every day for chanting 16 rounds, and then reading Śrīmad Bhāgavatam as the first priority of the day. This is inconceivable for the people, but this is the austerity, tapasya, that one has to do for being called as a bhakta. Prabhupada writes, therefore, bhakta means one who does not hesitate to accept the reformatory process of becoming a bhakta. What a powerful statement. The next is, one should be prepared to offer the necessary respect and honor to spiritual master. And respecting spiritual master also means respecting advanced God brothers also on the level of spiritual master. If some God brother is very advanced, and this especially Srila Prabhupada is writing with his own context, that Srila Prabhupada was a grihastha, and when he started establishing Krishna consciousness, that some of his other God brothers unfortunately were unable to understand, appreciate the contribution of Srila Prabhupada. And in fact, various attempts were made that ISKCON does not get land in Mayapur, so on and so forth. But, and then Prabhupada needed very direly some help, even to send one kartal on Mridanga. And that also, like, it was impossible to receive even such a simple help. So Prabhupada writes here, one should realize that one has to treat the advanced God brothers on the level of one's spiritual master, right? We see some advanced devotees, we should treat them literally like a guru. And that's why guru is not one singular word, it is plural. One may have one Diksha Guru, but there are multiple Shiksha Gurus, and there is no difference between Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru. They have to be respected on the same level. So this is Srila Prabhupada writes in that verse, Yasya deve parabhaktir, yatha deve tatha guru. So their guru means, the plural guru, including Shiksha Guru. And then Prabhupada writes that devotee should always be very kind to general public so that they are getting out of Maya, and this is the real humanitarian activity. Next is one should be faithfully engaged in the service of spiritual master, developing detachment from the internal and the external material propensities, and one should be non-envious and cleansed, suchaye, internally and externally. So for external cleaning, we take regular bath. For internal cleaning, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sa abhyantara suchihi. This is how one gets internally and externally cleansed. The word diyata means knowledge of Krishna consciousness should be received from spiritual master. And spiritual master also should not accept disciple. Prabhupada writes here, for some material gain, name or profit. The disciple should be really worthy. Otherwise, he should not be initiated. And what is that really worthy means? That means the dearest goal of their life should be Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these 2 verses, 41 and 42, we see the qualifications of a devotee to be qualified, eligible to be called as a devotee. Prabhupada writes here. And we have to, develop these qualifications. The last verse of this chapter. Ya idam shrunuyatam shraddhaya purushaksakೃತ Yo abhidatte macchittaha sayeti padavim chame. Translation.
Anyone who once meditates upon me with faith and affection, who hears and chants about me, surely goes back home, back to Godhead. The end of Bhaktivedanta purport of the third canto, 32nd chapter of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, entitled Engagement in Fruitive Activities.
Not audible. Prabhu.
So here now Lord says, anyone who meditates upon me with faith and affection and hears and chants about me will surely go back home, back to God. Right. So we are just waiting for that one Shuddha Naam, which has the potency to take us back home, back to Godhead. Entire lifetime is preparation for chanting that one pure holy name. Thus end Bhaktivedanta purport of third canto, 32nd chapter, entitled Entanglement in Fruitive Activities. So here actually the Upadesh, or the teachings of Kapila Muni, concludes here. Next is the activities of Kapila. So very beautiful chapter again, and this is how we'll conclude the third canto, which is the largest canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam after 10th canto. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gauda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Tilokmana,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna बोल रही हूँ।
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We conclude.